Today I will talk something about vocal cord paralysis. Depending upon the cause, vocal cord paralysis may be unilateral or bilateral, complete or incomplete, giving four possible combinations, namely unilateral incomplete paralysis, unilateral complete paralysis, bilateral incomplete and bilateral complete paralysis. Each of these presents a different clinical picture and different management. Pathology. The recurrent laryngeal nerve is the motor nerve of the all laryngeal muscles except cricothyroid muscle, which is supplied by external branch of superior laryngeal nerve. This muscle has an adduction effect on the vocal cords, and thus a lesion which spare superior laryngeal nerve will leave the cord lying nearer the midline than which paralyzes both. This is effect mean that high lesion of vagus nerve will leave the cords further from midline than paralysis of recurrent nerve alone. Three positions of paralyzed vocal cords are described: paramedian, intermediate and cadaveric. There are little point of differentiating between paramedian and intermediate, as it is little diagnostic significance and difference is only few millimeters. So reference is only made between paramedian and cadaveric. Another factor which controls the position of paralyzed cord is the curious fact described by Seaman. In all progressive lesion of the center and trunk of the motor laryngeal nerves, however, supplying the abductor of the vocal cords become involved much earlier than adductors. This means partial lesion will leave the cord paramedian rather than the cadaveric position. Neither Simon's law nor the site of lesion decide the position of the cord absolutely, but both are useful guides. Most commonly affected nerve is left recurrent laryngeal nerve, due mainly its longer course and high incidence of bronchial carcinoma. Etiology. Vocal cord paralysis arises as a rule from some remote causes. Lesion which affects either vagus nerve are tumors at the base of the skull, such as glomus jugulare tumor and nasopharyngeal carcinoma. Bulbar paralysis. Peripheral neuritis due to influenza, herpes or Epstein-Barr virus. Fourth is high neck injury, that is trauma or surgical complication of radical neck dissection. Metastatic glandular enlargement, basal meningitis, vagal tumors, glomus vagale or neurolinoma. Lesion affecting the recurrent laryngeal nerve, left recurrent laryngeal nerve, carcinoma of the bronchus, carcinoma of cervical or thoracic esophagus, carcinoma of thyroid gland, operative trauma from thyroidectomy, radical neck dissection, pharyngeal pouch removal, cricopharyngeal myotomy, ligation of patent ductus and other cardiac and pulmonary surgery. Fifth is mediastinal gland or tumor such as Hodgkin's disease. Any enlargement of left atrium such as mitral stenosis. Next is peripheral neuritis. Eighth is aortic aneurysm of aortic aneurysm. Right recurrent lesion affecting right recurrent laryngeal nerve, carcinoma thyroid gland, operative trauma from thyroidectomy, pharyngeal pouch removal or myotomy procedure, cancer of the esophagus, cancer of apex of the lung, peripheral neuritis, subclavicular and subclavian aneurysm, unilateral complete paralysis. As the vocal cord will be in the cadaveric position, the patient will practically aphonic at the onset of the paralysis. After 1 or 2 weeks, the opposite cord will cross the midline on phonation and voice will begin to return. Closure of the gap added by mucosa of the healthy cord becoming more lax. The paralyzed cord later drops to a lower level than normal as the arytenoid falls forward. The quality of voice at this time is harsh, barbling and breathy, a sound called diplophonia. Normal voice will never return unless some form of surgery is undertaken. Treatment, provided that causative lesion is curable or it is under control. If the causative lesion is incurable, it is kinder to leave the paralysis untreated unless patient insists on surgery. All treatment is directed to replacing the cord in midline. This can be done either endoscopically or by open operation. These are Teflon injection using a Browning syringe which delivers a measured amount of Teflon paste is injected at direct laryngoscopy. This process is done under local anesthesia so that patient can phonate. An appropriate injection should be given up to the satisfactory phonation. Second is cricothyroid arthrodosis using a laryngofissure approach. Third is implant procedure using it is also by using laryngofissure approach. Bilateral complete paralysis. This is least common condition and both cords lie in the cadaveric position. There is aphonia which does not recover. The patient cannot control coordinated swallowing and food is inhaled. Situation further compounded by an inability to produce a good cough treatment. Nearly all patients suffers from bronchopneumonia and will require a tracheostomy for removal of pulmonary secretion and debris. If the situation is severe, it may be necessary to do total laryngectomy. Bilateral incomplete paralysis, also known as abductor paralysis. This paralysis in which the vocal cord is fixed in paramedian. It was unilateral incomplete paralysis. Every patient who is discovered to have such paralysis in the absence of any other discoverable cause must be regarded as having left-sided bronchial carcinoma until proved otherwise. If a carcinoma causing a nerve paralysis is discovered, it is generally considered to be inoperable, although if it is small, other treatment methods may have a better than usual chance of success. No treatment of the paralyzed cord is generally indicated because the voice problem is minimal and other cord usually compensates. Bilateral incomplete paralysis. This lesion is not common. Both vocal cords lie in paramedian position. Sooner or later, every patient with this condition will have a stridor. In all cases, the voice is acceptable and in few cases it is virtually normal. Treatment of a stridor and good voice. If a patient has a stridor, tracheostomy should be done at least for 6 months. Usually recovery occurs within 6 months. If recovery will not occur, we do podopexy. Podopexy is an operation, the objective of which is to move and fix a retinoid, vocal process and vocal cord in abducted position, which is achieved by following methods: external retinoidectomy, retinoidoplasty, nerve muscle implant. Bilateral adductor paralysis. As the name suggests, inability to adduct the vocal cords is always bilateral and always functional, and the symptom is always aphonia. One can almost imagine her deliberately making no attempt to use any throat or chest muscle in act of voice production. Condition is most common in young females with love or work problems. One of the most helpful diagnostic features is the effort involved in creating the symptom. On examination shows not only that the cords are in abduction, but where adduction does occur, it is incoordinated, as if the patient is trying to suppress normal reflex of gagging. The single most diagnostic feature, however, is that no matter how patient is for speech, she will always produce a good cough. This lies out with the field of ENT. And in suitable cases, quackery with reassurance is occasionally rewarding. Majority of the patient requires some form of psychotherapy by family doctor, speech therapist or psychiatrist. Thank you.